to add 429 square feet onto the existing first floor toward the rear of the property, which includes removing or demolishing 125 square feet. In conjunction with that, a new attached two-car garage will also be located on the ground floor, accessed off of Lauderdale. A new second story will be added to the building, also located toward the rear of the property. And that second story will be approximately 720 square feet. Property is located in an R1 low-density residential zone, floor area District 2. The existing lot is 4,491 square feet. And as mentioned, the garage will be accessed from Lauderdale. The lot slopes down from 3rd Avenue to the south, approximately 6 feet. The proposed project complies with all zoning code requirements, and there are several two-story homes within the area. There are some across the street on Lauderdale, as well as one to the northeast corner. These homes also have similar materials as what's being presented tonight, which includes the hardy plank and similar pitches. Staff is recommending approval of the project and is available for questions. I'd like to note that staff has been working with some of the neighbors, especially neighbors to the south, and concerns were raised regarding massing of the second floor, as well as some of the issues with privacy. Staff would also like to mention that I've received several emails that we've run copies for you and presented before you for your review. If you'd like me to read through the names of those individuals who submitted, I can. Otherwise, they should all be there. Conclude staff's presentation. Do you want me to read through the names?
Yeah, if you just go through the names.
I have an email received from Mr. Joe Luca, Sharon and Bill Weissman, Sharon Thompson, Nancy Camo, am I pronouncing that right? And then we received one additional letter tonight from Maria Muriello.
Okay. Do we have any questions for staff?
I have a couple of questions, Madam Chair. I read in the other letter that it was attached from another neighbor, the neighbor on 4th, I believe, talks about grading. What grading are we doing here?
What they're doing, and the applicant can probably address this in more detail, but the addition they're trying to make at the same level as the existing first floor. They're providing a retaining wall at the back so that the first floor is all level. But the height is still taken from this. This doesn't change how the height is taken from. It's still taken from the low point of the lot, not for when the retaining wall is coming.
And that's where the garage is at. Where the garage is basically in this case. And that structure on the side yard is being demoed, correct?
Correct.
Is there a survey with this application? No?
You can ask the architect.
Yeah. That's all?
I have one or questions. The R1, if you can explain the setback conditions for an R1 zone for
Setback?
front.
The front setback, if it was a brand new house, would be 25 feet off of 3rd Avenue. So we've got an existing non-conforming situation out there. They're not making any modifications to it, nor are they exceeding more than 50% of the total roof and wall area being removed. Therefore, they can keep what's out there. But once they go over 50%, then it's a whole new story.
Okay. So the side setbacks,
Street side or interior?
both.
The interior requirement is 5 feet minimum.
Okay.
The street side is 6. except for the garage coming off of Lauderdale needs to be 20.
Just for the public to understand, it's kind of strange when you're looking at a house and you see the front door is actually on the side of the house under technical planning. The front elevation and the front setback is measured along 3rd Avenue here.
So adding a structure to an existing structure that is almost twice as much as, if not bigger, than what's there now, that still doesn't trigger the conformity of the existing setback. I mean,
Not as
it
long-
would make still maintain the existing setbacks as they are.
As long as they're not removing more than 50% of the existing roof and wall area total together. And from staff's analysis, they're not.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I'm fine for now.
Okay.
Thanks.
And I'm going to open the session, and the first applicant, I've got a numerous list of people that want to speak. You're going to be allowed 3 minutes to speak. The architect will get 5 minutes. And I'm going to call up Tracy Moody. You would just give your name and address for the record?
Please stand to the
Up-
microphone. Yeah.
Right there, yes.
Tracy Moody, 736 Lynnhaven Lane, La Cañada. I'm the architect for this project. The property at 4415 Lauderdale Avenue is an existing single-story, 768 square foot, 2-bedroom, traditional style house with craftsman details and a 1-car garage. My client is proposing to add 1,024 square feet, 429 to the existing first floor, and adding a 720 square foot second floor. This living space will include a master bedroom and bath, larger kitchen, small dining area, guest bath, as well as a new 400 square foot 2-car garage. The proposed second-story addition is the only way to achieve the city's 40% floor area ratio allowable. The proposed square footage of the house is 1,792 square feet, which is below the allowable at 39%. The design was also generated by the city requirement to maintain 50% of the original roof and exterior walls. The preserved structure is the building to the north of the property. The overall building height is 27 feet 6 inches, 6 inches lower than the allowable 28 feet, and that's measured from the finished grade at the garage to the highest ridge point. Also along the south property line, the second floor addition has a 15-foot setback, 10 feet more than the minimum 5-foot setback requirement. The stepped roof lines and multiple building heights help to achieve an appropriate mass and scale for the neighborhood. Many homes within close proximity are 2-story houses. The proposed project is respectful of the traditional architectural style of the neighborhood, featuring street-facing gables and maintaining simple craftsman detailing with horizontal siding, vinyl windows with exterior grid pattern, and rock detailing at the entry porch. This project will preserve and enhance the character of this unique neighborhood. Thank you.
Any
I had a
questions?
question.
Yes.
On the perspective, it shows the existing rock wall. Is that being removed or maintained?
It is not.
Okay.
It is not being removed. It will remain.
Following that question, there are existing steps that are within that retaining wall, and it's going to the entryway.
The existing front door,
Right.
yeah, those
How's that being altered?
they're just kind of old concrete steps that will be removed, and we're building a new front porch
Okay,
for the
but
home.
what happens to the void that will remain for the new, existing?
That will all be landscape area.
You're talking about where the,
You're talking
Yeah,
about
so I'm talking
Talking
about the
about-
steps. You take out the steps, and what happens to the,
yes, she says she's going to put plants there.
You
Planting.
still need to recreate the wall.
the wall.
yeah.
You have to fill in the wall.
Okay,
At your request,
Well,
she
we
might do
could- we
that.
could
That
fill
wasn't
in-
part of the plan, so we can make a
Just
condition
trying
to
to
do
get
that.
clarity on that.
And then what about the front yard, so-called the front yard? There's, like, all the dirt is coming almost spilling over. So I'm just wondering what happens there. Is that going to remain as they are, as it is?
on 3rd Avenue.
On Third Avenue?
That can all be landscaped.
Have you checked with Public Works to see if there's going to be any requirements?
For landscaping?
No, but for some sort of a walkway or some sort of a curb or sidewalk or something?
No, I have not checked with putting a required sidewalk, no.
There are many blocks in this neighborhood don't have sidewalks. It's one of the characteristic features of the area.
Yeah, but the amount of work that is being done, I know it's not, planning doesn't see it as more than 50%, but the size of the building, I don't know, Public Works is going to trigger some improvements. I don't know how they will trigger their requirements.
No more questions?
No, I'm okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
one quick
Okay.
question. Sorry. I think staff mentioned something about a retaining wall. Where is that specifically, that retaining wall?
On the south side, we're sloping a driveway, about a 2% driveway slope to the driveway, and we're stepping up from the garage about 3 feet. So we're going to have a retaining wall at the back of the garage wall, and then have about 2.5 feet of fill to have a nice yard behind there.
So the back of the garage will have a retaining wall?
Yes, yes.
But then, does that
Like a
spill
3-foot retaining
over
wall.
to the property line, or how does that?
I think we'll probably have to have a kind of a stepped retaining wall going up along that south property line.
Do we have a section or anything? of
Yeah, I
that?
mean, do you have a
section is
survey
clear.
or a section?
I
or
have a
something?
survey,
Yeah.
and
Kind of having a hard time visualizing this
Okay,
retaining wall in
yeah.
the back of the garage. If you're putting a retaining wall, and if you're not grading, are you
well,
grading
it's
for the
going to, no,
garage?
it would be more of a fill,
It'll be more of a fill for the garage.
For the
behind
yard
the garage.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, so the garage is going to be on grade, right?
yes.
So then you're going to fill the back of the garage to create a, right?
To raise this,
So if
yard
the
area.
garage is on grade, so immediately to the west of the garage against the property line, are you
to the,
grading the side up to?
Yeah, when we're on the
So
studio,
if you're creating a retaining wall here to raise this,
yes,
and you're creating these steps here,
right.
so,
You can come up here if you want.
Back in there,
yeah,
we'll have a retaining wall here.
so you will have a
Yeah,
retaining
we
wall.
will
So
be
so it will
retaining
be
some soil
retaining
here.
wall soil, okay.
Yeah, maybe
Okay.
about 3 feet of soil along this area.
Is that
This all
in
sloping
from the
up.
What about the
property
back?
line?
Yeah. There's an existing masonry wall that is on
Right, but that's
on Lauderdale's
inside that-
property. Yeah, this will all be on the Lauderdale property, most definitely.
But how far in from that? Isn't there a requirement, a
Like
new
a-
retaining wall?
Well, the footing gets deeper, but the wall itself is 6 to 8 inches masonry wall.
So this whole area is being raised, in other words? This
Yeah,
whole
just
area
this
is...
little- this grassy area here, yes.
So you're going to have a retaining wall right at the property
Yes.
line, a new
Yes.
retaining wall?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
I just wanted to mention that as part of the staff report, a letter was received from the neighbors to the south, from Camila Castellanos and Etienne Capras, probably pronouncing that wrong, just to bring that to your attention.
Yes, we read that, about their retaining wall with a fence on top. Yes. Thank you.
I do have a survey anyway, just for your information, if you'd like to see it.
We may have to ask you
Okay,
more.
okay.
All right. Susan Boland?
Hi, I'm Susan Bolin. I live at 3528 Prospect Avenue. I'm the president of Far North Glendale Homeowners Association, and I served on the North Glendale Plan Advisory Committee. I live one block east of the proposed project, and my street consists of post-war cookie-cutter homes. They're all one story, and we have beautiful views of the San Gabriel and Verdugo Mountains. Every house on the block has been modified from its original form. Now, the development in Highway Highlands occurred in a very much different pattern than on my block and warrants special consideration due to the age of the properties and the small lot sizes and steep topography. A number of the historic homes have kept their small footprint, many of them retaining the original architectural elements from the 1920s. As families have grown, however, many owners have tried to maximize their square footage by adding second stories. The unfortunate consequence of this is the disproportionate house-to-yard ratio. The neighbors are literally on top of each other. While we do not deny the owners the ability to modify their house and maximize their living space, we feel that placement of the new structure is of the utmost importance in order to reduce the appearance of mass and scale. In the Glendale Comprehensive Design Guidelines, Section 1.7.4, it states, a project can be designed to make it appear more monumental or to help diminish the apparent size and scale of its mass. Design decisions of placement of building forms in relation to one another, emphasis of horizontal and vertical elements, size, scale, and placement of entries, doors, windows, and other architectural elements all contribute to the perceived mass and scale of the project. Proper use of these and other design elements make it possible for projects varying in size to be designed to visually fit in the surrounding context. According to the staff report, great care was taken to ensure that the project would look appealing from the street. However, if you stand across the street on 3rd or Lauderdale, the views are completely blocked. All you see are the story poles where the house will be. And due to the placement of the addition and the slope of the property, the neighbors to the west and south will see a structure looming that they will lose, so large that they will lose natural light and all privacy. To mitigate these issues, I respectfully request the Design Review Board send this project back for redesign. The addition of 3 feet of fill dirt is unacceptable. The overall height of the project can be reduced to a single story or redesigned as a split-level home. The plans should include details about retaining walls and how water will flow from the property. Windows should be moved higher to allow views for the homeowner, but increase privacy for the neighbors. Please consider rejecting this project as designed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Atrine Cabarros?
Etienne Capgras. I have a presentation for you. I'm not going to go through it, but...
Your address, please.
My address is 3707 4th Avenue. I live below the retaining wall. So we welcome any rehabilitation project for the 4415 Lauderdale Avenue because the property is in poor conditions. We have concerns. We try to address them with the architect and the owners. Got no answers. Basically, those concerns are massiveness. Basically, from my backyard, my backyard is more or less 12 feet, 20 feet wide. From the middle of it, the effect is that you're looking at a house that is 32 feet high, and you're looking at it at an angle of 45 degrees. It looks like a 3-story building. So massiveness is an issue. There are pictures. It's visible from 4th, from 5th Avenue as well, both sides of the street. This is 3 blocks. So this is one of the concerns we have. In terms of alternatives, I think Susan went through some of them, but grading is an issue. We think that avoid grading could lower the effect, a split level or doing the project on the lowest level of the land. If grading, I think setbacks should be reviewed, or at least for the 2nd story. or the whole height of the project may be reconsidered. In terms of the second effect we have is privacy, and this one is a big one. There are 5 windows facing our house, our home, in the project, plus one door. One of the windows is in the garage, facing directly the kitchen. It has direct access to the intimacy of our family life. It impacts privacy, of course, visual, acoustic, natural light, views, of course, and I attract your attention to what they're going to view from their house once it's built. It has a diving view directly to two-thirds, of a home. The kitchen, 2 bedrooms, the living room. And if you zoom in, you can see the inside of our house. Oops, I'm sorry. So that is a big issue in terms of alternatives. No windows on the south face. That could be one. If there are windows, I think they should accommodate the normal respect between neighbors. That should be expected. Higher or out of line of sight windows. We should be talking about a separation, something between our properties to avoid having that noise crossing over. And in any case, any consideration at all regarding privacy would be really welcome in this project. In terms of, I called it general reasonability of the project, we already talked about the slope. We talked about the additional 3 feet grading. There is already a 3 feet terrace. This is on top of it, the hip roof, and I call it broken line roof. I apologize in the deck. It's a hip roof, allows 3 feet higher. The massiveness provoked by all that is out of proportion. I don't see any retention wall being included in the project. Drainage plans, so we have safety concerns. All that increases the massiveness greatly. And it has an increased impact on privacy. And really, regarding the grading, we really are wondering why. Why is this really necessary for the project? In general, and summarizing, the impact of the proposed project is exponentially increased due to the unnecessary additional grading, again, impacting massiveness, privacy, safety, and it's inconsistent with the neighborhood style and rhythm, and we kindly request from the city to explore alternatives that will bring all parties in agreement. I included pictures of the neighborhood. You will see no hip roof anywhere in the avenues, even if pretty famous, so popular in La Crescenta. It's not part of the avenues. And the reason, I think, is people are trying to keep houses at a certain logic and reasonable size. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I just, because a few speakers are already talking about privacy, I want staff to, go over our ordinance with privacy.
Privacy is an issue that's addressed in the code. It is an issue that we can only regulate at the city level or through DRB for privacy viewing adjoining properties from primary, what we would call public spaces of the new project. That would include a room like the living room, a room like the dining room. If there were say a balcony or a raised terrace over 25 square feet, that's specifically called out in the zoning code for us to have the ability to regulate privacy. If for design reasons the board can find a way to improve the design in a way that might also address privacy issues, that's certainly within your purview. Through landscaping is within your purview. But you can't specifically ask for example, I heard no windows on a certain facade to avoid looking into a neighbor's rear yard. The code specifically doesn't allow that, and the board's not allowed to go beyond what the code says.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The next card I have is Joseph Jamora.
My name is Joseph Jamora, and I live adjacent to this project address on the south side. The presentation looks awfully benign. There's a 5 to 6 degree slope on Lauderdale, and being that it's going to be a 2-story addition, the effect of the houses to the south is like a 3-story mass. Like previous speaker said, I would hope the board would ask for a redesign and move the second story towards the 3rd Avenue side of the building, so the roof line would be more consistent with the houses on 3rd Street rather than be a towering addition for the people that live on the 4th Avenue side of this address. You were talking about 30 feet maximum on the roof line. Is that on the low point of the property, or is that low point of the project, the building? Because if it's a low point of the property, there is a slope from towards Lauderdale from where the building sits. And that slope is approximately 3 additional feet. So, yeah, I would hope that this board would consider have an addition move further towards the 3rd Street side of the existing building rather than on the rear side of the building. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir, which neighbor are you? Are you this one here? Are you in the corner one?
I'm at 4405, directly south and adjacent to the
This one here?
project.
No,
The corner?
That one?
You're on the corner here.
Yeah, I'm on the corner of 4th Avenue and
You
Lauderdale.
have red
this one
front
right
doors.
here. Yeah.
Yep.
What's your square footage on your house, sir?
2,000. It's a 2-story.
Okay. Thank you.
It was built in 1979, and apparently the members of this board, or that sat on that board, cared about privacy, because my house does not have any windows on the west side of the building other than a small privacy window in the master bedroom bath, which is required by code.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next card is Camila Castellanos.
Hi, this is our house.
Give us your name and address first, please. Thank you.
My name is Camila Castellanos. I live at 3707 4th Avenue. And just to give you a visual, this is our home, historic stone house. We moved here 4 years ago, fell in love with this unique property, which is still in its original state. Living in a stately, historic home has its disadvantages, but we work really hard to maintain its character in the spirit of the Highway Highlands. We're in the process of having it landmarked as a historic site. There are many neighbors who could not be here tonight. It's back to school night at our local school, but here's the petition they signed in opposition of this project. My number one concern is that this addition will change the footprint of our historic home. In particular, because the addition's extreme height can be seen looming over us from 4th Avenue and also from 5th Avenue. Please don't get me wrong, I am thrilled that this troubled little house is finally seeing some TLC. As a rental property for at least 18 years, it has boasted a dog enclave and then a trash pile which attracted rats and raccoons. So we're very happy they're finally investing. However, this particular proposal comes at great cost to the immediate neighbors and the spirit of the neighborhood due to its mass and scale. The owners who have never lived at the property, if they did live at the property, they would not propose this particular style. Why would they want to peer into our private life and overshadow every window, especially considering this is only the south side of their home? We're not talking just about seeing into my little girl's bedrooms, but also into our living room, kitchen, dining room, as well as peering over and into our backyard. Our home will become a living fishbowl as a result of this addition. We tried to propose a wall within the plans that would help mitigate sight and sound, but the owners said they would be willing to split the costs of such a wall or privacy fence. Are we supposed to help pay to soften the effect of their choices to build in this manner? And lastly, this proposal will negatively affect our property values. our local real estate agent, Maria Mariello, has said the invasion on our house's privacy will deter buyers in the future and lower the price of our home. Now, Maria, you have a letter from Maria. She lived on our street on 4th Avenue for many years, in one of the stone houses, actually. And also, she cites, the spirit of the avenues. And is that my time?
Your time.
Thank you.
Quick question.
Okay.
Just want to confirm. Your address is 3707, right?
That's right. 4th Avenue.
And your house is 1,700 on a 4,000 square foot lot?
I believe so.
Well, I'm glad you're designating the home, or you're in the process.
Thank you. We will try. I don't know if we can if the blueprint changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenton Wyeth?
Before I start, speaker that follows me is agreed.
Maybe we could put you at the end then, because I want to make sure I get through everybody.
Sure.
Okay? Let's go with Patty Nemitz. Oh, you're here.
Yes, hi, good evening. I live at 3700 4th Avenue, corner of 4th and Lauderdale. And has been mentioned before, I'm very concerned about their privacy, that your home is the only place that you can call your own. That's it, in this whole world. And I think that if anybody has to live 24/7, 365, with somebody looking into their, most of their life, they may as well be on cable TV, all right? So we've reiterated privacy enough. But one thing that I'm kind of concerned about, the environment in general. As I understand it, the reason why, and correct me if I'm wrong, the reason why there's some kind of 60-40 percentage of how much your property can be built on and how much has to be landscape is so that the water, the groundwater, can be captured and benefit, Glendale. Is that right? And it seems that if the proposed house is built as it is, much more of the open landscaping will be covered, as it appears from the story poles and even from the lands, what do you call the plans. So it appears as if more will be covered than is currently covered. Okay, measure my time. I'm done.
That's fine. Are you finished then?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Adrian Allen?
My name is Adrian Allen. I live at 3746 4th Avenue between Boston and Lauderdale, and it's around the corner from the proposed remodel. My husband John and I went through a similar process to the one being submitted almost 10 years ago. We built a 1,490 square foot house on a 3,750 square foot lot, and did so in complete compliance with Glendale Code and with consideration for our neighbors, and have enjoyed living in that home now for almost 10 years. And it's a special neighborhood. But having said that, I'm very familiar with how tricky it is to meet code while building on a substandard sized lot. We actually had to get a variance just to build on the lot because there was no home there before. But after reviewing the plans online, my concern is that this remodel is not in complete compliance with Glendale City Code, most specifically in the height of the house and its elevation from all points on the downward slope it is built on. Now, I have to say that some of my comments that I was going to make have now changed, because what is said in this plan is this. If you look under site walls on the plan, it says, currently there is a low river rock wall along the street side property line and down the westerly side yard, which will be retained. There are no new fences or walls proposed at this time. Now, that is not what I heard from the architect today. And having gone through this process myself, I know that if you are going to have a retaining wall and be filling in any kind of dirt or possibly be needing a grading permit, I know what that entails. And I know that that needs to be done before design review. for the public to have full disclosure of what is actually happening here. And that has not happened, and that is the reason that I think that this design needs to go back, be redone, and come back to the Design Review Board again. Because really, without that retaining wall and without that fill, there is not compliance with the height code. Because what happens is that you have truly, indeed, a 27.5-foot total height from the ground, the first floor to the peak of the roof. But when you don't, without that 3 feet of fill from ground level to the peak of the roof, it is indeed over 30 feet tall. So as the plan is presented now, it is not in compliance with code. And I think that that is why you see all of these neighbors gathering and voicing their concern about the scale and the tallness of the building. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nan, yes. Do you want to address that?
Yes, please.
Just a point of clarification for everyone. Excuse me. Since the garage is attached to the house, the grading that's being proposed at the back is actually not involved at all in the measuring of the height. The height is being taken from the low point of the lot where the building comes out of the ground. In this case, it's taken from where the garage comes out of the ground, from the elevation from the low point of the garage, which is attached to the house, to the top of the roof. That's how height is measured. Just as a point of clarification.
Thank you.
Hope that helps.
I have Nancy Camian.
My name is Nancy Camo. I live at 3611 3rd Avenue. I served on the advisory committee for the North Glendale Community Plan, and I'm a member of the Highway Highlands Neighbors, Far North Glendale Homeowners Association, and Crescenta Valley Community Association. I sent an email yesterday responding to the staff report, going into quite a bit of detail, which I understand you have received and hopefully read. And we included with that a list of recommendations and some suggested mitigations for this project in blue at the last page. Looking at the mass and scale, site planning, building design, and detailing, we concluded that there are many concerns that have not been adequately addressed. Glendale City guidelines and plans, and even codes that appear not to have been followed appropriately or to the letter, along with some errors and misrepresentations. One of the main point that I want to make is this, that the comps, the references to the homes that are in this report, these homes were built before the North Glendale Community Plan. The comprehensive design lines and hillside guidelines were adopted, and that was in 2011. To use these structures as rationale for continuing to overbuild in Highway Highlands is a mistake. Looking at this home from the perspective of these plans that were adopted in 2011 needs to be looked at a little bit more carefully and not relying just on the comps, which will give you a distorted picture of what we have tried to establish with the new plans. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chuck Boone.
Good evening. I'm Chuck Boone. I live at 3659 3rd Avenue, directly diagonal from 4415 Lauderdale. My house was built in 1924. I've lived there for 22 years. There's a photograph of the house in one of the documents that I came across here, and it states that my house is a two-story house. I've lived there for 22 years. I can assure you it is not a two-story house. It's a single-story house. The photograph shows it with a white picket fence around it. We took that down about 10 or 15 years ago when the city of Glendale said that fences were no longer allowed in the area, so we removed it. When I purchased the house in August of 1992, one of the selling points and one of the reasons I chose the home was the view we get of the San Gabriel Mountains. The view that we have now over 4415 Lauderdale will be completely obliterated by the new structure. There are probably many different ways of interpreting height, whether it's from the southeast corner of the lot or the back of the lot or where the garage touches down. But the bottom line is when you stand where I live and look out, this place is huge, the way it's being planned. Like many of the other speakers who spoke so eloquently before me, I applaud the new owners for fixing the house up. It has been, the current house has been an eyesore, and I think it's great that they want to improve it. I think they're going about it the wrong way. Lauderdale and 3rd Street, 4th Street, the Highway Highlands are unique small homes. My house is 920 square feet. I believe it sits on 9/100ths of an acre. It is not a mansion. And again, I approve of what they're doing. I like it, but I think they're going about it the wrong way. It just does not fit. Yeah, I mentioned that the report states that I live in a 2-story home. You may want to check your accuracy. It also indicates that the house across the street from 4415 Lauderdale is 2 stories. It is. I remember when the gentleman who owned it at the time added the 2nd story, he did the work himself, and he was a Glendale building inspector and was bragging to me on how he could sign off on all of his own work. Now, that doesn't speak toward the permit process, but I'm stating that. We are very proud of our neighborhood. I think part of the city of Glendale, I grew up in Glendale, I was born in Glendale. I went to Hoover, Mark Keppel, and Toll, Glendale Community College. And as I say, I've lived here for 22 years. I had another house down on Dunsmore since 1980, before I moved to Dunsmore. I like it here. I want this to be my last home. And although as I say, I think what they're doing is headed in the right direction, they're going about it the wrong way. There must be a way of rethinking this to lower the overall profile of the 2-story addition, or perhaps make it a split level or 1-story. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Sherry Stubbs.
My name is Sherry Stubbs. I live at 3200 Feresta Street, La Crescenta. Once again, we come before you to defend our community against a development which involves inappropriate and oversized features. While the staff report refers to the construction of a 429 square foot addition with new construction, in effect, this project amounts to an entirely new development. The staff report also states that the project generally appears to be consistent with the comprehensive design guidelines. Generally is a very broad word. In fact, in this case, it is so broad that it results in just the opposite intent. The project is not consistent with the comprehensive design guidelines, particularly from the southern exposure. The comprehensive design guidelines apply to all exposures of a building, and here the southern exposure of the proposed building is not consistent with them. As others' comments will or have noted, we must also reiterate the provisions of the North Glendale Community Plan, particularly relating to mass and scale and compatibility with the neighboring context. Once again, those provisions apply to all exposures from a proposed development, and once again, this project fails, particularly in the southern exposure. Privacy is a primary element in both the Comprehensive Design Guidelines and the North Glendale Community Plan. Privacy is not to be infringed. However, this project would do exactly that, as evidenced by the facts and renderings. Section 30.47.040 applies in this case. For new development and remodeling in the R1, R1R, and ROS zones, consideration shall be given to the placement of windows in the new development vis-a-vis the placement of windows in adjacent residential buildings. It is important that the integrity of the Comprehensive Design Guidelines and North Glendale Community Plan be upheld, as evidenced by the facts approving the project as currently designed fails both. In addition, approving this project would set negative precedent to the detriment of other homeowners rightfully wanting to preserve their privacy and right of private enjoyment of their homes against a humongous wall of a house with privacy-invading windows looming down on their property. For all the facts and reasons presented to you in letters, emails, and verbal comments, we ask that you deny this project. Thank you. And here is a picture of a story pole looming over one of the bedrooms.
Okay, thank you. Next card is Sharon Thompson.
Hello, my name is Sharon Thompson. I live at 2828 Hermosa Avenue. I do not live in this charming neighborhood as these neighbors do, but one day I was invited for tea, and we sat in the backyard and enjoyed this lovely little plot of paradise when it suddenly dawned on me that we were looking up at these story poles that were just looming. And I had to think to myself, when this is all filled in with concrete block or stucco or some kind of masonry effect, it's going to be squashed. These people are going to feel like they're living in a pit with this huge wall looming up. It's just really something. I'll read a portion of my letter that I did submit for you, and I think you did receive it. It seems like a scaled and stepped-down rear property wall and new second-floor addition, pushing it closer to Lauderdale or 3rd, would be more compatible. If the plans are approved as noted, this will definitely depreciate the neighborhood comps on Lauderdale and 4th Avenue. This Lauderdale addition is definitely not in keeping with the North Glendale Community Plan with its large scale and mass. If you haven't visited this lovely couple in their 4th Avenue home to date and have not been in their rear yard, you should not make your decision based on the actual view from just a drive-by. I do not approve of this Lauderdale mansionization in the Avenues neighborhood of Highlands, or anywhere in Glendale for that matter. Please consider both neighborhoods in your deliberation, as everybody loves the quaintness of these old rock homes in the avenues of yesterdays in the foothills of La Crescenta. They speak volumes to their character, and the small-scale historic surroundings should be saved for future generations and not be squashed by this massive masonry monster mansion. I suggest it go back for redesign. Thank you.
Brett and Wyeth? Sure.
My name is Brenton Wyeth. I live at 3713 4th Avenue in the terrace below the project house and adjacent to. My primary concerns with regard to the project are safety, privacy, and the negative impact on the value of homes immediately adjacent to the project. It is important to keep in mind that lots in our neighborhood are terraced due to a rather steep natural slope in the general area. With regard to safety issues, I would like to know, 1, what are the specific plans, if any, for the construction of adequate retaining walls? 2, what provisions have been made, if any, to ensure proper drainage of the property? And 3, do the setbacks on all 4 sides of the project meet code requirements and generally satisfy accepted standards with regard to clear space issues and sight lines? As a neighbor with a home in the terrace below the project, I wouldn't want to discover during ensuing storms that rainwater is flooding my property. Worse yet, I have concerns that inadequate drainage together with inadequate earth retention may cause a mudslide serious enough to topple parts of the property at issue onto adjacent properties below. I also have concerns with regard to the scale and mass of the project. From the perspective of homes located in the terrace below, the proposed 2-story home will in effect appear to be a 3-story building looming over our homes. Exacerbating this effect, and this is particularly disturbing, are plans to grade the project to artificially raise the southwest end of the property 3 feet above the natural slope. Thus, the visually intrusive 2-story home will be at least 3 feet higher than is really necessary. Moreover, the plan to elevate the southwest end of the property runs contrary to the comprehensive design guidelines for the City of Glendale, which state that split-level pads should be used on slopes to reduce unnecessary grading. Another concern is the impact that the two-story home will have on the privacy of neighboring homes in the terrace below. The project home will command a bird's-eye view of our backyards and rear windows. Whatever privacy we may have enjoyed in the past will be greatly diminished. The scale and mass of the project, together with the loss of privacy, very likely will decrease the value of some neighboring homes. One local realtor estimates that the value of homes immediately adjacent to the project in the terrace below may be reduced by as much as 10%. Unnecessary grading of the property to elevate the southwest end of the lot and home by 3 feet, it seems to me, would be adding insult to injury. In conclusion, I respectfully propose 2 measures to mitigate the negative impact of the project on neighbors. I'm almost finished. Number 1, revise plans for the project to include a split-level design at the southwest end of the home instead of grading 3 feet above the natural slope. And 2, shift the second-story structure of the home northward away from the southwest end of the home toward the northeast end, where the view of and from the home would be less intrusive. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Would the architect like to come up and make any comments?
Can you also bring the survey with you, please?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd first like to address the issue of privacy. The owner and I met with the owners of the home at 3707 4th Avenue, and we discussed raising the height of the windows to a 5-foot sill height. So essentially, those 3 second-floor windows could be clear-story windows. 2 of those windows are bathroom windows, and the glazing in those windows could be obscured glass, so that there's not clear glass, so you don't see through those windows. That I would think should alleviate a lot of the concerns about privacy. Other issues that we are working with the existing requirement to maintain 50% of the roof and the exterior walls. The only part of this structure that is in reasonable structural condition is the piece that we're preserving on the north end of the property. So we're really kind of limited to where we can do the addition. As far as the grading, well, we're filling behind the garage so that we're having to work with the existing finished floor of the existing house, and there's just the first floor plan is just a living room space and a kitchen with a small dining area. Those ideally, the owner requested, and I think it's reasonable to have that all on the same floor. Split-level home designs consume a lot of square footage because of all the stairs that are required when you have to, go to multiple levels. And we're working with a really small footprint of the first floor, about 1,000 square feet. So,
can I ask a question regarding that retaining wall issue?
Mm-hmm.
If the retaining wall is next to the existing wall and fence that's in the back, correct? You're going up the little steps to the left of the garage.
Yes.
That will be up.
Yes.
What is there to, I guess what I'm asking is, you're up 3 feet. They have a fence on top of that?
Yes.
So that would put you standing 3 feet over their fence, approximately.
Well,
do you have any screening?
The slope of the property, It slopes up to the back, up to the west property line. And so we're raising that yard area about 2.5 to 3 feet. And that retaining wall will be subterranean. You're not going to see that retaining wall. And then we will put a 6 foot, 5 foot, 7 foot, whatever the city will allow, fence.
I guess it's just not clear because we didn't have the survey earlier and we didn't have the fence proposed. So it makes it appear maybe to the residents that you would be hanging over that area. So I guess what I'm asking is we should really see a section of how that is finalized or proposed and relative to the property below.
Well, I have a couple questions, but just to understand this now that I'm looking at this. The natural grade on top of wall, it's pretty much the same.
Same, right.
So based on what I'm looking at right now, you're saying that, let's say the natural grade is 499, what it is.
Right.
And you're raising that to 502. That means the existing wall that it's there, it's going to be raised to 502 to retain the dirt.
Yes, correct.
And then on top of that, you're going to have another 6 foot fence.
A fence
But the
for
existing
privacy, yes.
fence and the wall, it seems like it's in your property.
Yes, it is.
So that whole thing is going to come out. They're going to build a whole new fence in the wall right on the property line. And so if somebody's standing here, instead of looking at a 6 foot fence, they're going to be looking at a 9 foot fence because they're going to see a 3 foot retaining wall. Okay. I understand that. My question now to you and to staff is, how do you determine this 50%? Is this, I mean, I'm trying to understand how this 50% is, we're within that 50%, and if you can explain to me, because it's kind of difficult to read the plans, but I'm looking at this.
You want to come up here? Discuss it.
So explain to me, please, if you can. This is where the existing perimeter wall is, right?
Yes.
That is coming out.
Yes.
So
that's being demoed out. Yes.
So the structure that is being demoed, if it's part of that is garage, is it still part of that 50% because it's attached to the existing?
The 50% is taken from, the first part of the calculation is you take the total area of all the existing exterior walls
Right.
plus the area of the roof as if it were flat.
So it
Total
doesn't
that
matter if it's part of the building and you're demolishing that, if it's a garage or if it's store or whatever. If you're taking it out, you're taking it out, right? Okay. So if you can explain to me by removing, this is your entire building. We're taking this, all of this, that out, plus it seems like the roof is somewhere around here. Okay, so it's here.
There, yeah.
So all of this roof, all of that roof is coming out. And we're saying that that's less than 50% of the entire building.
From the exterior walls, not the interior walls of the
I
house.
understand. Exterior walls and the roof.
But your question, I think, is the garage, because it's attached, part of that calculation?
That's part of the whole calculation.
Is that part of the whole,
Just the house.
or just the house?
Just the house. The garage is non-conforming already. So just the exterior walls of the house.
Okay. So then this little piece, that little piece, and then just that little section there is being used as the 50%. Okay. I just didn't understand the whole, that because part of it, it seems to me, taking all of this out, taking all of this roof out, that you only have this much left. To me, it's less than 50%, but that's just me. And
Since you're up here, or you can go back, it doesn't matter.
Okay. He has another question.
I had a question. Is it really essential to build up the grade in that back portion? Now, I understand your dilemma. You want to keep the house at the same elevation, which is your, is it necessary to build up the grade in the back?
We can, we're
Can't you
proposing
step
to step
back?
it down.
Step it down from
Step
the
down
patio?
to the yard a little bit, yes. And
Well, you're already stepping down.
we're stepping down a foot. We
So-
can step down.
Oh.
So you got to step down further to eliminate that whole grading and the whole wall height
Have
that you.
long steps, and it could be
Yeah.
attractive.
Well, you could, treat it differently. But I do, feel that 50%, you raise a good question. I was going to raise it up in the garage attached. You're saying it's part of the calculation? No, it's not part of the calculation. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. All right, I'm going to close the public session. Mr. Murphy, you want to start?
Sure. So, whenever we have a project that we have, almost the entire neighborhood comes out, and so it kind of draws a red flag, so I have to pay a little bit more attention to it. But with the first glance, it felt fine. As I drove over there and I saw it, it started becoming a little bit of a concern for me. So I want to clarify a couple of things and the issues that I don't have with the project and the issues that I have with the project. First I want to clarify as far as the FAR, or floor area ratio. The lot itself is probably the largest lot, even though it's about 4,900 or 4,400. It's almost 500 square feet larger than the average of the rest of the neighborhood. Most of the neighborhood has 4,000, and pretty much there's at least 4, if not 5, different buildings that are, if they, God forbid, something happens to the structure, they're not going to be able to rebuild because they're over the FAR requirements. So what they're proposing is well within the allowable. As far as the size of the house, 1,700 is a modest-sized house in comparison to other homes, but yet, if you compare it to the lot size, getting almost 40%. I think the issue that everybody should be talking about, and as I am concerned about, is the bulk, the mass of the structure, the way it's been addressed. And one of the speakers brought that the hillside guidelines requirements of Glendale, and one of the guidelines that very clear that when you have a sloping side, even though this is not a hillside, you would try to follow the contour of the hill rather than maintain and carry the entire structure over. So I think everybody kind of touched upon the whole idea of having split levels. But I truly think that that is the solution for this project. In my opinion, I think the addition looks, feels, and it appears to be larger than what it can be.
If you could focus your discussion just on the site conditions here, the hillside guidelines do not apply to this.
No,
site,
I understand.
So I just wanna make sure
No. It doesn't apply. So I'm not saying that this is a hillside. It doesn't apply. But what I was trying to bring over is some of the guidelines that we have on the other parts of the community and other parts of the city. They try to address such a project, similar project if this was in the hillside. In this case, it's not. So, but I want to take some pointers from that guideline and bring it over onto this and try to understand if there's a way that we can eliminate some of these unnecessary increases in height. Even though it's not increasing the height of the overall building per se, because it's being measured off of the lowest point, which is the garage, front of the garage. But if that 3 foot is eliminated and if the entire building is stepped down, that overall height can be reduced. Also, and I hate to do this, and that may be one of the reasons, following the existing roof line and putting it on top of the 2-story structure, it works well with the 1-story, but when you start taking that 1-story, very large, steep roof and put it on the top of a 2nd story to match what's there, what you start creating is an added size, mass, and scale to the building. I really don't see a major privacy issue. I think I see more of a hovering of a mass over a backyard issue rather than a privacy issue. I think that's more of an issue for me than obviously I'm not the person who's living right next door, and I don't, I'm not going to feel the full effect of this project. But I think it is my responsibility to express my concerns. And I think that the 3 foot is a major issue. Now, the other concept or idea and thought that I was thinking about and being able to, obviously we can't really put the structure on the front portion, because then what it'll do is it'll take it out of that whole grandfathered condition of the existing non-conforming situation that we have, the 17-foot setback and so on and so forth.
The setback on Lauderdale is 6 feet.
Setback on Lauderdale is 6 feet, but on 3rd Street, we're maintaining the 17-foot, which is the...
Yeah,
if it was brand new, it would need to be 25, right?
Yeah, that's why the 50% rule is critical for this project.
So there may be a way, and I'm not sure if it's even possible. I think the architect may want to study that, and she may have done this. But there is a section there in between the main entrance and the garage that there's like an open space that entire building can kind of slide over next to the existing or the proposed garage and create a little bit larger opening rather than creating a section in the front yard or the side yard to be kind of left unused per se, and then pushing the entire building to be almost 17 feet from the backyard. So that may be an option. I'm not saying that is the solution. There is a section there that can be used. Maybe the living room, or I don't know what's over there. Maybe the dining room can be pulled over. Kitchen can slide over. The bedrooms can slide over. I don't know. I don't know if that's the solution to open up the yard and eliminate some of these, mass that it's over there. But I think the biggest challenge for the architect would be is the grading. I think, we have a site, we have a unique site, we have a sloping site, and to maintain a flat floor slab across, what it's doing is it's creating a convenience, but at the same time it's creating a huge mass on the exterior. So,
Mr. Mardian.
Well, I agree with the comments that my colleague just said. I'm one of the first people to question second-story in neighborhoods like this, and we've seen it over and over when single-family and modest neighborhoods come with second-story additions. Before I start commenting on design, I just want to say, the number-wise, looking at the compatibility, the chart, and I think it's, floor area, lot coverage is within the range. Now, I looked at this, I went there and I looked at it. I didn't get a chance to go to the backyard of the concerned neighbors, but I look at this lot, there's not much room to do a one-story addition. I mean, barely any room. So the only way to do it is to go up. Right. Now, I agree with Mr. Malikian that, although it's not a hillside, but there is a change of grade that occurs, from third to the garage side. And I think due to the concerns of the neighbors and actually the site topography, I think in this case it's wise to step the building or make it a split level, because originally when I got the plans and I looked at it and I looked at the numbers, I said, this doesn't look too, too complicated. But when I was out there and the story poles, seemed massive, and I looked at the plan and the perspective is not really telling the true picture because it shows it on a flat lot with some inclination. I do feel the mass is a little excessive, and I think there's ways to stay within the 50% range and step the building 3 feet. And I don't think it's necessary to build up the grade in the back in this particular instance. And privacy issue, I looked at this floor plan. Really, the windows that are facing the back is a bathroom windows. And, there's a small window from that other bedroom that could be eliminated. I have no issues with that. But I think from the second floor, it's only bathroom windows. This could be also resolved by creating an opaque glass. I mean, so you don't have the privacy.
I mean, privacy, it's not an issue. I think it's more of the bulk and
I think the major concern that I'm having is the scale of the second floor. And I appreciate the applicant actually for setting the building back substantially on the second floor, because I think our design guidelines discourage you to put buildings on top of another building and create a whole box. I think this is sensitive, and I think it works with the design guidelines of stepping the building further back from, because we've had several cases where the buildings were put in the front and we told them, no, push it back because you're in a corner. The mass and scale of this corner is going to be even worse if you put the building in the front. And I looked at the sections, I said, why is this building looking so high? And I looked at the ceiling heights are not out of proportion, they're 8 feet high. So it's not unreasonable. I think by...
You know what it is? It's the scale of the property.
And I
it's
think
the scale of the property. It narrows, and as you get further, I mean, the height, it's fine. I mean, but when you have only, 17 feet to the back property line with such a huge, almost a 27-foot tall.
Yeah, I think this could be it's workable, because I'm looking at the plan and where the area of the modification and the removal is. Could be easily achieved to step the building down, because that's where the break of the building is. And that will satisfy the neighbor. I hope so. Reduce the height and eliminate the grading in the back. I think it will work.
Yeah, I hate to put additional stuff, but I really think that if that section is kind of slit down next to the garage, she may not even need to. She may not even need to step down, because you're going to create such a larger distance to the neighbors and bring it forward, and you would have these kind of a stepping of the form of the building as it's going down. Jogging the building. I mean, that could be the solution, and you can get your ground level addition and second floor addition, but yet you have almost twice as much of backyard and the distances. But it's that or stepping down or something. I don't know.
Well, however they're going to achieve it, I mean, I think a reduction of 3 feet on the height is a substantial reduction. I think will eliminate a lot of the concerns that I believe you're having. I'm very stickler when it comes to second-story additions, and my board members probably realize that by now, that second-story additions, I'm very sensitive in neighborhoods that are this old and that have existed for years, and the homes are modest. I think the example you can take also, the one across the street in the corner, was tastefully done. I think, is it one of the speakers is here? It was tastefully done. And it's not intrusive, and the area. I look at the coverage of some, just the lots that he's provided. I mean, the coverage is essentially, similar to the neighbors, and the square footage is. That's why you asked and I asked what the square footage of these neighborhood homes are, and to deny somebody to do a second story, I think it's unreasonable in this particular case, where if it was a 3,000 square feet, I say, yeah, but this is 1,700 square feet. To deny somebody to do a 1,700 square feet, I think it's unreasonable. But I do agree the mass should be reduced. And I think that's the major problem that I have.
Not necessarily reduce the square footage, it's just the massing of it.
Massing we're talking about.
Just by shifting.
Because I don't see anything out of ordinary for a house, components. I mean, living room, bathroom, kitchen, dining room,
just
3
a very
bedrooms.
modest addition.
And to say that this is unreasonable or it's mansionization. I truly disagree on the mansionization part because, like I said, I'm very adamant about second-story additions in neighborhoods such as this. And with that, I'd like to hear what the Madam Chair will say.
Whatever. I agree with all the comments made, and now that I realize, because we now have the survey and that existing wall at the back, I don't think I would be wanting to look at a 9-foot wall with a fence on top, and I think that grade should be dropped down. I was under the impression it was in a ways and there was some screening, and that's not the case. So I think what everybody has said is could still create a very nice house, could also address the neighbors' concerns, and I think the windows are not an issue, the size is not an issue, it's just the way it's presented, and I think that raising of that grade is grading. It's not that there's no grading on site. I think that's what creates the problem. So I'm in agreement.
I'd like to add one thing that the neighbors have concern with. When the projects like this go through building department approval, grading department will have to review it, and they're going to ask for the proper drainage, and all those components that go with the project. So it's not to say that the drainage is not going to be there. We have to, you have to provide, drainage on the site and roof gutters and downspouts and so forth, and carry it to the street. And with that,
Can we hear some of the?
Yeah, and then I have a clarification question, but the starting in order, not necessarily of importance, at the front stone wall where the existing steps are, when those steps are removed, the gap will be infilled with stone to match the existing stone, possibly stone found on site, you imagine? The rear yard will not be raised. It will be kept at grade. There will be a 6-foot fence, but there will not be a retaining wall or any other feature along the south property line. I'm not sure if what else, that wasn't really, the height of the addition will be reduced by at least 3 feet, creating a split-level configuration in the house. If possible, perhaps some of the first floor, or possibly both first and second floor square footages, could be moved closer to Lauderdale. I'm having a little trouble understanding roof forms at that point, how that would work, but it's something that might get worked out. My open question for everyone is, we thought it was appropriate to duplicate the roof form of the house at the second floor. Would the board approve that if the height were lowered by 3 feet but kept the clipped gable? It was mentioned as a hipped roof. It is a gable roof.
It's a clipped roof.
Clipped
corners.
It looks fine.
It's fine.
Okay.
It creates that additional mass that you don't want to have on the second floor. It's fine for the first floor.
Okay. But if the height of the new addition is reduced, would you want to see a different roof form there? If you do, we'd need to hear suggestions.
I am satisfied with the roof forms.
I like it.
Okay. And you had asked for a section of the fence and the retaining wall, but maybe that's a moot point.
Well,
if the
yeah,
grade,
no.
We need
We're not
to
making any changes. I don't think that's necessary.
you don't need it?
But we still need
would
to
stay
see a
as is,
section,
correct?
so we can, determine the neighbors'
We
concern.
can ask for a section to verify
Sure.
that everything is staying as it was, and that's everything that I've got.
I'll move for return for redesign.
Second the motion.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is there a new driveway on this?
I don't think so.
Yes.
Do we have material on that?
Concrete driveway with 12-inch decorative band.
Should put my glasses on.
Let's see it from here.
Okay,
We
have
have
the minutes left?
2 sets of minutes, but Mr. Simonian was involved in both of them.
And I was absent.
He's not
Okay,
here.
so then we should hold those minutes over.
Absent on both of them. So we don't have a quorum for this.
Right.
Do we have any other comments, or?
No?
No? Then we move to
Adjourn?
Second?
adjourned.
Unless staff has it.